I'm going to start a part 2. You already know that evil Samael and wicked Lilith are like a sexual pair who by means of intermediary receive an evil and wicked emanation from one and emanate to the other. The heavenly serpent is a blind prince, the image of an intermediary between Samael and Lilith. His name is Tanivar. The masters of tradition said that just as this serpent slithers without eyes, so the supernal serpent has the image of a spiritual form without color. These are the eyes. The traditionists call it an eyeless creature, therefore its name is Tannin-Ivor. He is the bond, the accompaniment, and the union between Samael and Lilith. If he were created whole in the fullness of his emanation, he would have destroyed the world in an instant. Now this is getting really kinky. This Tannin-Ivor is a slithering serpent without eyes, who somehow enables the castrated Samael to have sex with Lilith. But if he were to manifest fully, then the destruction of the universe, which happens whenever these two truly mate, would come about anyway. So whatever Tannin-Ivor does for them, it has the capability of being just as good as the real thing. But mercifully right now it is not, or else we would all be dead. More detail on this subject comes from the Zohar, quoted by Andrei Orlov in Dark Mirrors. While the intermediary is described as none other than Azazel, the goat demon who figures so prominently in the Old Testament, as we will explain shortly. Now observe a deep and holy mystery of faith, the symbolism of the male principle and the female principle of the universe. There is the line where the male and female principles join, forming together the rider on the serpent and symbolized by Azazel. So there, the Tannin-Ivor is likened to a line that unites the two creatures and is said to be riding them, and to be symbolized by the goat demon Azazel. Another passage from the Zohar, as quoted by Mark Biggs in the case for Lilith, goes on further with the same language. The unholy filth grasps the male above and the female below. Here, male and female join together. They are the rider on the serpent. This is the secret of Azazel, which includes the male and female of defilement. This exact same role, riding shotgun in between a male and female pair, that were formerly one hermaphroditic creature, was played by Azazel in another sacred text as well, the Slavonic pseudographical Apocalypse of Abraham. Here he is described doing this with Adam and Eve. A vision is related of Adam and Eve standing under the tree of knowledge, entwined with each other physically, and with Azazel between them, feeding them both grapes. In his book, Dark Mirrors, Azazel and Satané in Early Jewish Demonology, Andrei A. Orlov compares this to a sexual menage a trois, and suggests that it may be an allusion to the first couple being ridden via demonic possession. In this, then, what the work of the Tannin-Ivor really entails is his function to facilitate the possession of human bodies by demons so that the spirits can hook up with each other sexually. Couldn't it be that Baphomet is the Tannin-Ivor, the Azazel, that joins the serpent? Isn't he, then, like the philosophical Mercury, the Azoth of the alchemist, which they said could bind any chemical marriage, no matter how unlikely? The product of alchemical marriage has always been represented as a Frankenstein chimera monstrosity like Baphomet, composed of many different types of animals and people. But we must wonder, is it that the ultimate chemical wedding is between angels or spirits and men, like what the Kabbalists seem to be saying has happened between Adam, Eve, Samael, and Lilith? In addition to being the primordial sex goddess, Lilith is a path to divine wisdom, the forbidden wisdom of the tree of knowledge of good and evil, which according to Genesis opens the eyes of a person and allows them to see things like God does. The 13th century Spanish Kabbalist R. Isaac Hacohen said that Lilith is a ladder on which one can ascend to rungs of prophecy. Similarly, we read in Left Emanation, concerning this point, there is a received tradition from the ancient sages who made use of the secret knowledge of the lesser palaces, which is the manipulation of demons, and a ladder by which one ascends to prophetic levels. Side note, she talked about this in her book Genuflect, and she talked about Sophia and Sophia's fall, and that's also the baptism of wisdom, or what they call the baptism of fire, and it's really kind of a deep thing. So we're just going to read what she says in this book. But that reminded me definitely of Sophia, which I don't know. I don't want to say anything. I don't want to say something wrong and be wrong, There are many other parallels as well between the Kabbalistic legends of Lilith Samael in the Garden of Eden and the creation stories of the Gnostics. Gnostic cosmology describes creation as happening in a series of eons, just as in Genesis happens over a period of days. However, the word aeon not only means a lengthy span of time, but can also be thought of as a universe unto itself, with a living intelligence of its own too. Each aeon is generated by a syzygy, a hermaphroditic male-female pair of intelligences. In the beginning, all of the primordial intelligences were together inside uncreated totality, which was called the pleroma. However, just as Lilith wanted to be on top of Adam sexually, Sophia refused to submit to the dominance of a sexual partner. Instead, she tried to generate an eon parthenogenically on her own. The result was a deformity, an abortion that was cast outside of the pleroma because of its hideousness, like a teen mother might discard her baby in a trash can or a toilet. As the story goes, after Sophia's abortion, the real father of all made a new pair, called Christus Holy Spirit, to clean up the mess that had been made outside of the pleroma. He then created a new, unpaired aeon named Jesus, and he formed the abortion into a new entity, Sophia Achamoth, the Lesser Sophia. Her name is related to the Hebrew word for wisdom, Chokmah. Her pain at being separated from the pleroma actually became the substance that Jesus then used, according to the Gnostics, to form the physical matter of the cosmos. Achamoth then created the demiurge out of that and made him king of everything outside the pleroma, as well as the chief artificer in charge of rearranging matter. Then the demiurge created the 7 heavens below him, each with a god in charge of it. These seem to correspond with the planetary intelligences. Note that in this case, just as in Judaism, the fall from perfection is caused by knowledge, which the Kabbalists say created a false universe of shells, represented by the infernal Qlipoth tree. In Gnosticism, the fall is caused by wisdom, Sophia, giving birth to a malformed creation. Sophia's abortion can be thought of as parallel to the fact that after being cast out of the Garden of Eden, Lilith was cursed to continue giving birth to demonic children with no father apparently, who would die as soon as they were born. Lilith is described in the Zohar as a husk covering divine light. Just as Gnostics said, we are divine light, trapped inside husks, our physical bodies. Just as the Gnostics had stories about Sophia and the Aeons, Kabbalists have stories about hermaphroditic beings, Lilith Samael and Adam Kadmon, that personified primordial forces existing in a netherworld of chaos prior to the present creation. The Kabbalists infer that the fall occurred when the first male-female pair was split apart. The Gnostics said it was when the female Sophia tried to be independent without her male half. In Mesopotamia, Lilith's companion was the screech owl. In the Old Testament, references to this animal are used to denote Lilith. Note that owls are seen as symbols of wisdom in the West, as an owl was the sidekick of the wisdom goddess Minerva, Athena to the Romans. You may recall that Minerva sprang spontaneously from the head of Zeus, just as Lilith is said to have randomly popped into existence from the great supernal abyss. So Zeus fathered Minerva without a mate, just like Sophia created the demiurge in that same manner. Eliphas Levi's depiction of Baphomet. Coagula on the arm, solve coagula. I'm only doing parts of this book. I may try to do the whole thing, but I'm doing parts that are really important because all these things that Tracy realized and was writing and saying were exactly what Jonathan Kleck was shown by God divinely. And he stays in the Bible to prove to people that all this is in the Bible. You just can't see it until you're able to see it. Here's the Knights Templar. They spit and stomp on the cross. And here is Lilith. This book is packed. Here's Meat, which is Baphomet, which is the Helpmeet, Minnie Mouse, possibly, This is the same, the Great Schema is literally almost identical to this. So I don't know if they copied it and flipped it all, inverted it, but it's crazy. I've shown before how they look alike. They're basically nearly the same. These are from the Hammer Purgstall books that Tracy Twyman had translated from Latin. And when they were working on these, they had extremely paranormal activity. The guy that was translating it almost died. When I first started learning about this, I was heavily attacked. But people need to know the truth. Those who are willing to see the truth of how far this history goes back. And then now we're going to go on in the next video about Lilith and her connection as going through the patriarchs of the Bible and basically tricking them and incarnating and doing this thing where they're possessing people from this mirror side, this primordial, I started at the second chapter. I might go back and do the first chapter. We'll see.